Alright, if you're wondering why things might look considerably easier for me and my friends while we're playing this than it might for you, we're almost level 300, pretty much all of us. I think our lowest buddy that we're playing with is at level 160. We've all beaten the base game. We all have maxed out weapons, maxed out shields, maxed out talismans, whatever. Some of my talismans aren't like the highest level you can get, but maxed out flasks, pretty good mixed physics. I've known these guys for anywhere from 5 to 7 years, and collectively we've all played through all of the Dark Souls games, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, multiple times, and multiple times together. So we know each other's tactics. We know how we play. And we love playing together. Does it make the game easier? Oh, fuck yes. Is it cheating? No. We have fun playing with our friends. You go drinking. You go drinking by yourself, or you go with your friends. You going for a cruise. You going by yourself? Sometimes, yeah. I like playing these games myself sometimes. I wouldn't call it peaceful, but it's something. But the important thing is, that's why it's not that hard for us. And if you started the DLC and you're getting your ass kicked, you may need to level up. Get a bit farther in the base game. Find some tools that are useful. The sword I'm using with the golden wave is from the last boss of the game. Covers a huge area, can do massive damage if you've got the stats for it, and staggers pretty much every smaller enemy like this guy that we're fighting. We just kept him flat on his ass. There was nothing he could do, especially because there was three of us. And if you've got a mimic who has that sword on and has the same stats as you, cool. Problem is you got to go find the mimic tier. There's all kinds of YouTube guides out there. It's more rewarding if you do it yourself. It's faster if you follow a guide. But as you can see here, the base enemies of the game open world aren't super fantastic. I'm doing pretty much 1,000 damage per hit. But that's because in the first maybe 4 hours of the game, instead of banging my head against the first boss I saw or trying to attack the biggest thing I saw, I worked my way around the edges and did some exploring. And I found like 3 or 4 skidoo upgrades, skidoo tree upgrades, before I even found a dungeon, of any kind. So exploration is key. Finding out the tools you need. If you're getting hard enemies like this, you're not sure. Find something long range. Give them a poke. If you do tickle damage, run away and come back when you, when you got some stronger stuff. As you're about to see, this guy's really fast. He moves well, but because we've all got probably 300 plus hours in this game, and probably collectively over 2,000 or 3,000 hours each in the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, kind of the FromSoft lineage, we've all become pretty accustomed to the combat. So it's second nature to us. We're not perfect. We mess up. We get killed by bosses, but as you can see here, he's not one-shotting me, right? I've thought about what I'm doing. I've got a good shield. I'm trying these new swords so that you can't block when you're using them because it's dual wield sort of deal. But you'll see as I continue to take damage, I might switch up halfway through the fight, put a shield on, block. If you're banging your head against the wall and it ain't working, try something else. I was 40 hours into the base game before I fought Margit. After I fought him 2 or 3 times the first go, and I was like, all right, I'm not just not doing enough damage for me to want to continue fighting this boss and spend a whole entire day beating my head against this guy and dying 50 times, right? I went for an exploration. I was 40 hours into the game, and I'd beaten probably half a dozen other bosses in other dungeons and areas before I came back to that guy. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to fight this guy, because I kind of just forgot about him for a while. I kicked his ass. Not because I'm an amazing player, just because I had the tools to deal with him. You know what I'm saying? And the things he was doing to me. And enough knowledge of how to play these games in general that my dodging is okay. My blocking's decent. I understand about finding boss patterns. But so there definitely is a challenge, but don't go into it unprepared. This bit here is a good example. We tried fighting that guy, poked him a couple times, he laughed at us, and then just about one-shotted every single one of us, and we're just like, you know what, well, for now, let's just walk around him. He forgets about us pretty quick, he's not chasing us. Alright, well, let's go somewhere else and find more cool shit and get stronger, and we'll come back. You know. And again, like I say, I play with my friends. I've almost never beat bosses by myself. I don't have the patience, you know. Some bosses, genuinely, I don't think I'd ever be able to beat by myself. Like Melania, probably would never beat her by myself. I might try 20 times and be like, I'm not really having fun anymore. I'm going to do something else in my life, But I have people I can call in, and even when I'm playing these games and I don't have people I know that I can call in, I'll turn off the password and I'll play with complete strangers. Most of the time, if they're putting an orange sign down, they're saying, "Hey, I want to help." Yeah, sure, they're after some free souls if you beat the boss. But 98% of the time, they'll come in there with you and they'll try just as hard as you, right? And I've actually met friends that I continue to play with for years or months afterwards playing Dark Souls games. You go in the same boss, you try the same 5 or 6 times, stick with it, and then they send you a message. Hey man, thanks a lot, right? Fuck yeah, no problem. You want to come into my world and help me? Yeah. And by that time, you both know the boss, and you do it 2 or 3 times, and he's done for, right? And then you made a new friend, and you beat the boss. So don't be shy. The toxic Souls community can be all be good. You have to do it naked with a rusty spoon, or you're not a good player. Who cares what they think, man? Most of the bosses that I fought, I found a cheese strat, or I found a way around it, or there was a way to lure them off a cliff, or I just avoided them altogether until I either had help or tools or strength enough to lower the difficulty to the point that I could handle it. Even these big bastards hide behind the rocks. Don't stand out in the middle of nowhere. They'll forget about you eventually. If you're on your horse, you're faster than them. Some people might call you a fucking coward for running away, but if you don't have hours to waste beating your head against a brick wall, go do something else for a while. Come back. You know. What we always say when we find a boss we can't beat, we're like, well, time for a training montage, and we go fuck off and do something else. Explore. Have a great time. Find cool shit. Find whole other areas, whole other bosses. You know what I mean? So I guess don't give up, but especially with Elden Ring, there's always 6 other ways around. I found a way to just go around the castle that Margaret was in and get to the other areas of the game. I accidentally wandered into Caleb once, and that was a huge mistake. But, I saw the big giant crow, and I poked it, and it did tickle damage, and I was just like, I meant to come back here later. And I came back later. It was still horrible, but it wasn't a terrible experience because I was prepared for it, I guess. So if you beat a boss and he one-shots you with some sort of flame explosion, game's telling you, maybe find a way to avoid getting damaged that much by fire stuff, right? So sometimes it's as much of a puzzle as it is a test of pure skill and reflexes, or a test of moveset knowledge, right? You do need those things, but if you can outsmart something, then outsmart it. If you can go around it, right? This is all very Sun Tzu, Art of War kind of stuff. The only reason I'm, I guess, trying to go this deep into it is to say it's worth it. When you get it and you start exploring and digging into the lore and finding cool crap and making friends to play with, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get it. It takes time. It's like learning to ride a bike. It's never going to happen the first try. Once you learn to ride a bike, then you're ripping around town with your friends, and it's fantastic. Anyways, I'm just going to let shit play for a little sec here, and we're going to get to a couple bosses that I put in here for the sake of example. Now this guy, this guy would be a real SOB by yourself. He's quick, he does a fair bit of damage, and he moves all over the freaking place. This is our first time fighting him. None of us had been in this dungeon or met this guy or seen this guy before. But, as I said before, we all have different tastes in what we like to do. We've all kind of learned what works for us. You'll see my 2 buddies are using the Dragon Breath to put some Scarlet Rot on him and to draw his aggro. If he's looking at them, that's my cue to attack. I do a couple thwomps, get some damage in. When he goes aggro to me, I worry about dodging, and if I see him attack one of my buddies, then I attack him. They do the same thing. So, none of us is trying to be the hero. We're just trying to keep each other alive and kill whatever is trying to kill us. Right? And if you find any randoms to play with and you notice that kind of behavior in them, they're the ones you want to keep around. Because they're there for the co-op experience, not for either self-aggrandization, that's a big word, or for purely the profit of the souls. Especially if they come back for the second round. If you fail the first time, then all right, these guys are here for the fun of it, right? But that's a side note. You'll notice that we're constantly round robining this guy and then trying to keep him off his balance. Both my buddies have that rotten flies or whatever it's called, and that really annoys the crap out of enemies because it can kind of mess up their attack cycles. I'm more of a ranged guy. I tend to draw aggro when he starts to go nuts on my buddies to keep them alive so they can keep shooting him with the flies. I'm not doing tons of damage to him, but I'm keeping his attention, right? So he doesn't concentrate on any one of us long enough to kill us. I mean, right there, I've got, for some reason, developed a hatred for that pillar. But I was button mashing because, the adrenaline was pumping. It was our first time. This guy was just about dead. There's always the urge to get greedy when something's just about dead. And there, we got him. First crack. It was a pretty cool boss fight, actually. It was very interesting. Drops a great weapon. This boss, again, our first time fighting it. I mean, I'd seen one of these things out in the open world, so I kind of assumed it was probably the same thing. I've seen lots of big enemies that run at you like they want to hug or like they want to eat you. That's probably a grab attack, right? One thing FromSoft generally does really well is if you look at the enemy you're fighting, concentrate on it. Make it the center of your universe. Worry about how cool your character looks. I mean, we'll worry about your friends, but that's what peripheral vision is for. Watch what it's doing. It'll tell you what it's about to do. Right? Just about. Some of them are really super quick, and the only way to learn is to get hit by it the first time. And if your character's not strong enough, you'll get one-shotted by it, and then it takes a lot longer to learn the bosses because you're constantly dying before you get to see something. That aggravated the shit out of me about the base game until I got good, at least better, and I got better gear, and my character got stronger. Right. Then I started living long enough to be able to see and learn the attack patterns, and then it wasn't that bad. Once you learn these enemies, there is people like us that do no-hit runs because they've learned them that well. So it's not impossible. It is difficult, but it's not impossible. So, I don't know. If you're low level, I say, explore the base game. Me and my friends, two of us are at NG+. I think Savage there, my buddy Savage, he's at NG plus 3 or 4. Starting this DLC was as difficult to us as starting the base game as new characters. But we had learned, obviously, to go look around and get strong. Now, we came into the game with the beginning of the DLC, with much better weapons than a new character would have. They would just have a basic sword or a bonking stick or something, right? It wouldn't have magic. They wouldn't have crazy spells. They wouldn't have maxed out armor and weapons. But the reason the DLC is as difficult as it is because it's obviously, first of all, I suppose, meant for players that have beaten the main game. And, maybe after 2 years of waiting, have done all of the things, and you're starting to get a bit tired of it and want to get back into the thing they love, which is more Elden Ring. And if it was as easy as the base game is for us, especially at the beginning, it wouldn't be as fun. Right? There'd be no challenge to it. You just waltz through the whole thing. You don't really pay attention to anything. You're not absorbed in the world. It kind of loses its heart. So it is what it is. I mean, if you're just not the kind of person who's got the reflexes and the momentum and the emotionally or psychologically to do this kind of stuff, I get it. This is not for everyone. By the way, this is our first encounter with Mesmer. So if you've been watching, none of us has any clue what the hell he's doing. And this whole snake bit was the end of us. But we lasted a pretty good long time, just because we've played enough of the game that we understand its mechanics. So the DLC was meant for people who understand the mechanics, who have tools to play the game in the manner that they want. I guess that's what I have to say. If you're a new player trying to get into it and it's too fucking hard, I feel your pain because it's a gorgeous and amazing DLC. I would want to explore it too, but think of that as the cherry on the cake. That's your reward for getting far enough into the game to find the tools and the levels and the personal skill to be able to jump into this and not have a crazy difficult time. Or if you bang your head against a boss like this, we banged our head against this guy a few times. We're like, all right, we're not quite ready. So we went and explored, found 3 other new areas and 8 other new bosses and half a dozen new cool spells and tools. I don't know why I died there to this day. I don't know why I died there. But so we went out and continued to have uninterrupted fun doing new things while becoming stronger. So there is entertainment to be found in going off and getting better or finding something else or thinking of a different way to do it. It's not a linear game in that manner. You don't have to bang your head against that boss to see more of the game. It's already out there. And that's what's fantastic about these games, and that's why I would recommend that anyone have the patience to learn the way of whatever the fuck, Elden Ring, I guess, Souls games. That's about all I'll say. This is about our 5th attempt on this guy. Had a hard time learning his patterns because it's hard to see what the hell he's doing. He's a giant sunflower vine thing. But 5 tries, it's not too bad, right? Figured out that I think that's holy damage, so we put a lot of holy damage protection on, and it seemed to really help. So I had to switch some talismans, and then we discovered that this weapon works really well. And my buddy Savage doesn't usually use it for boss fights, but he's got the blood thing from Og, which did amazing damage to that thing. But he'd never be able probably to get it off as much as he is if that thing was aggroed on him all the time. So our weapons work well together, but I don't know if either one of them would be great at beating this boss on their own. So, if that tells you anything, then there you go. So somebody who solos something like this might have a completely different build, and they might tell you, "Oh, build this way," right? But then you're playing with your friends, and all of a sudden your build is just getting you killed, and they're still alive because they're like me back somewhere 40 yards away trying to pew the thing. And here I'm actually doing decent damage, but a lot of the times with my spirit, like I said, I'm just trying to keep aggro off the damage doers so they have time to do their damage. And that's one of the things we love about playing together is it broadens the strategies you can use and allows a lot of interplay between different characters, and everyone feels like the hero by the end of it, because I couldn't have beat this guy without Savage, and Savage was having a hard time beating this guy without me. Sometimes we go off and beat bosses on our own with our mimic tiers or whatever. Sometimes we fight bosses together, right? But like I said, don't make it harder than it has to be just because you're trying to follow the rule of cool of the Soulsborne chads out there that play the game naked with a rusty spoon. Those guys are out there, and I'm not knocking their skill. It's genuine skill, but you don't have to play the game that way.
Wow.
You got to follow the rules of the game in this world, but you can play it your own way, and I suggest maybe that you do, because once you get it, you're gonna be glad you did. Anyway, that's all I got to say. It's old man signing out. Just out of range.
Oh, that was the third stage?